Syria's scars from decades of autocracy and war are still visible in the rubbles of Damascus and in the fragile and short euphoria that accompanied Bashar al-Assad's dramatic flight out of the capital. For millions, the moment Syrian rebels swept through the streets, toppling statues, burning portraits of dictator, and also chanting freedom felt like a catharsis, the end of an era of oppression and birth of something new. Yet as history has often shown how the fall of an old order does not guarantee peace or stability, particularly in a society as divided as Syria's. In those first heady days after Assad's departure, a moment long fueled by dreams of unity and inclusion forms its limit. The jubilant crowds in Damascus masked underlying tensions and deep-rooted mistrust across the country's mosaic of sects and tribes. Nowhere was the fragility more evident in the outbreak of violent clashes between Syria's Druze minority and neighboring Bedouin tribes in and around Sueda district. This comes less than a year after capital's liberation. Old grievances like dispute over land, honor, religion and politics resurfaced with deadly force, turning hopes for freedom into fresh anxiety for security and identity. In fact, the violence was swift and brutal. In just 1 week, hundreds perished as gunfire and mortar shells tore through villages, often pitting neighbors against neighbors. In fact, there was an attempt by transitional government to restore order led to only brief truces. Cycles of revenge killings and reprisal quickly overwhelmed the new authorities. Disturbingly, the escalating hostility drew in outside power. Israel, claiming to defend the Syrian Druze from reprisal attacks, launched airstrikes on government and Bedouin positions, further stoking the flame of sectarian resentment. The Israeli incursion, while lauded as a humanitarian gesture by some, opened new questions about sovereignty, legitimacy, and the broader battle for influence over Syria's fragmented post-Assad order. Amid all this chaos, many Syrians looked for signs of hope. One symbolic moment came with unexpected budding of friendships between US President Donald Trump and Ahmad al-Shara, the newly installed interim leader in Damascus. Their meeting in Riyadh, felicitated by Saudi and Turkish mediation and buttressed by Trump's decision to lift crippling sanctions, was heralded as a turning point for Syria's international rehabilitation. For some, Trump's embrace of al-Shara, once a Syrian, for his jihadist past and ties to certain organizations, was a pragmatic gesture that finally restored Syria's shattered economy and also unified its feuding warlords under a benevolent federalist model. But the promise of federalism, dividing the states into autonomous regions to recognize local identities and interests, remains fraught with peril. While it offers a theoretical framework for coexistence among Syria's multitude of people, federalism alone cannot erase generations of mistrust or stop the bloodletting of sectarian vendettas. While federalism demands compromise and strong safeguards for minority rights, yet it also risks institutionalizing the very division that fueled Syria's endless conflict. As the fight in Sueda demonstrated, local autonomy is no guarantee of peace when communities are armed, memories are raw, and justice is sought through violence, not law. In fact, many believe that the Trump-al-Shara partnership might create space for dialogue, reconstruction, and healing. However, the reality was harsher. Fierce fighting continued in the countryside and urban centers alike, with hundreds killed in the fractious months after the rebels' victory. In fact, the new government struggled to assert control, challenged not only by the remnants of the old regime and external meddling, but by the sheer complexity of Syria's social fabric. Now, the biggest question is, can federalism save collapsing Syria? Well, it can provide a skeleton, a rough blueprint for a future settlement, offering hope to embattled communities yearning for recognition and autonomy. But without genuine reconciliation, outside support grounded in mutual respect, and the most important bit, the painful process of truth and justice, federalism risks becoming yet another stage for Syria's old wars, replaying under the new banner. Only when Syrians can look beyond tribes and sects, supported rather than subverted by their neighbors and supported allies, will the real promise of federalism and peace have a chance to take root.